Okay, it's time to record a new episode. Come to life. Give our episode life! I can't believe you actually hummed that entire theme. Bless you. Editor Donald, just play the opening. Just play the opening.
The General Geekery Podcast presents Spooktober.
I still can't believe that you actually hummed that. I was not ready for that.
It's one of my favorite movies.
How dare you? How dare you? Oh.
I'll be quoting it throughout, just so you know.
I expect you to, and I do not blame you because I was gonna quote that too. So why not? But dang it, Hannah, why? Why must you steal my heart every time? How dare you? How dare you? How dare you?
I'm sorry. What are we talking about today, anyway?
Yeah, we should probably figure out what we're talking about, shouldn't we? What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the General Geekery Podcast.
Woo!
This is the podcast, of course, where we love to geek out about all that we love to geek out about with no remorse.
No regrets.
And with all of the enthusiasm in the world.
Indeed.
As always, I'm your resident coffee ninja by day, actor, gamer, streamer by night, Donald Kaczynski, back once again. Joining me as always, she is our artiste extraordinaire, dice slinger magnificent, and of course, our resident video game inept. She is Hannah Kubiak.
Hello.
And welcome back to our second edition of Spooktober 2021. Today, we are going to pay homage to an icon in the field of horror. We are talking about...
Seuss.
Wouldn't that be interesting if he actually went a horror route like Stephen King?
Oh my gosh.
But no, we are going to be talking about one of the most iconic...
I do not like green eggs and ham. You will like green eggs and ham.
Oh dear God. I want a horror...
Green eggs and ham just start pouring out of the walls.
Oh dear God.
Where Sam I Am appears. Would you like green eggs and ham?
I'm dead! I'm so dead! Today we're gonna pay homage to one of the most iconic movie monsters of all time. We are, of course, talking about Frankenstein's monster. Basically just Frankenstein in general, because it is possibly one of the most legendary stories ever written by... It's one of the best horror stories of all time.
Yeah, also known as the modern Prometheus, right?
The modern Prometheus, exactly. Yeah. So for a lot of people, like, let's be honest, the monster, Frankenstein's monster, is iconic. It's like one of the most recognized like monsters things ever created for pop culture. It's in the mainstream.
That little zipper neck.
Exactly, little zipper neck, giant like square face jaw. The bolts coming out of the neck, they're...
It's going to be very popular.
Thank you, Igor. But a lot of people don't know how basically the entire premise originated. And for that, we have to go all the way back to the early 1800s with an author just at the age of 18 by the name of Mary Shelley. Possibly wrote one of the best gothic horror novels of all time. Started writing it at the age of 18.
Oh my gosh.
God almighty. The first edition of the original Frankenstein book was published in London in January of 1818 when she was 20. It was originally released anonymously. So, but it was quickly rectified among the second edition of releases, according to.
So it was attributed to her in the second edition?
According to the research I found, yes.
Cool. Don't put that on the cord there.
I saw that.
There you go.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
I was trying to maneuver around. I was like, oh my god, please don't trip on the cord, coffee. Please don't. But it's basically the classic gothic horror story is about Dr. Victor Frankenstein. Mm-hmm. Basically trying to bring a dead creature back to life through the power of science.
Oh, see the spike there on the audio where you said science.
Editor Donald, please lower that in the future. But with the power of science, he hopes to be able to bring the dead back to life for a huge scientific discovery, and basically the creature,
an abomination of nature.
Indeed, the creature
not meant to be.
Is born, and it's the interactions of this creature, who's basically it's like the mind of a newborn child.
Yeah, but in this gymongous body
that can harm many. Is basically beset upon basically set upon Transylvania, and of course many. It was a very successful novel, but it wasn't until the film industry started to take off that arguably Frankenstein's monster really came into his own as an icon of pop culture.
Yep.
And of course we have to talk about the original Universal production of Frankenstein, with possibly one of the most iconic early horror actors that basically done every single kind of monster you could imagine, the legendary and iconic Boris Karloff. And in a weird twist of fate, because we mentioned Dr. Seuss earlier, he actually voiced the Grinch in the animated Grinch cartoon.
I knew it. I knew there was a connection.
See? We have our references, dang it!
We've got our references and connections down, Pat.
Like and subscribe. Wait, this isn't a YouTube channel. Never mind.
Just click the subscribe button.
Yes.
Down below, click the little bell to get notifications.
Ding! But, the original Frankenstein film released in 1931, with Boris Karloff as the creature, again, follows the basic premise of the original source material. Mm-hmm. And, it was a hit. It's honestly recognized by a lot of people as one of the most influential horror films of all time, and it's in the National Library under the National Film Registry as an important piece of history.
That's awesome.
And then it had a sequel film about 4 years later, and is one of my favorite horror films of all time, The Bride of Frankenstein.
I don't know if I've ever actually seen that.
Okay, do you know the little girl in the well thing that is commonly associated with Frankenstein, this monster?
Yeah.
This was the film that trend happened.
Okay.
So, basically, The Bride of Frankenstein, Victor Frankenstein, again, is basically bringing back the dead, and said he is creating basically a mate.
Yeah.
For the creature.
I do know that. Yeah, I read the book, so I know that he made a.
She only gets a small amount of appearance, in I think both in the novel and in the film itself, but her appearance is so striking, just so iconic. She's
kind of like a bird.
Kind of like a bird, like a hinged nose, shrieking, up at the top of her lungs, the Marge Simpson-esque light hair with a white lightning bolt streak going through it.
Yep, the Marge Simpson hair. Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it.
Yeah.
She's arguably just as iconic.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, as the films progressed, and obviously the Universal monsters went into more B-movie territory, as Frankenstein was put into different situations with other classic movie monsters, such as, The Mummy, Nosferatu, Dracula, things of that nature. There's an entire catalog of it that I can't even begin to match off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't like the only thing of Frankenstein's monster in film. In the UK, we had the Hammer film productions.
Okay.
Basically, Hammer Films had like different movie monster films, just like Universal did, and a lot of the times, a lot of the monsters was okay. So the Frankenstein version, Victor Frankenstein was played by Peter Cushing,
right?
AKA Grand Moff Tarkin. Do you want to know who played Frankenstein's monster?
Was it Christopher Lee?
You bet it was Christopher Lee. One of my top 10 favorite actors of all time.
Oh my gosh.
Lee has done like a lot of different... there's a reason why he is like a gothic icon.
Uh-huh.
I mean, obviously we've seen him as Dracula. We've seen him... I think he also did Hammer's version of The Mummy.
I wouldn't be surprised.
He was basically to Hammer films what Boris Karloff was to the early Universal monster films, because not only was he Frankenstein, he was also the original Mummy.
Right.
So, yeah.
Remember in Arsenic and Old Lace when the guy had plastic surgery to disguise himself, but his surgeon made him look like Boris Karloff? It was like Peter Lorre played this surgeon.
It had to be Peter Lorre.
He was like, oh yes, they had to change his whole face, and I was intoxicated. He was like,
I mean, to be fair, like, if I had the power to look like Boris Karloff, I would take that in an instant. The man is such a recognizable face in horror.
Peter Lorre is one of my favorites.
He's the best, dude.
I mean, yeah, a refugee from Germany. He made his own way in America.
Well done. Wunderbar. Wunderbar. But, it's through the, like, how exposed that Frankenstein got in so many different ways, like, on both sides of the globe, that the films kind of eclipsed the original films that it was based on, in terms of popularity, which is sad because the books that were written by Mary Shelley were fantastic. Mm-hmm. I read the original Frankenstein during my last year of high school. Mm-hmm. Like, not even as, like, an assignment. I just read it out of curiosity.
Right,
like, I found it in my school's library one day, and I'm like, I'll read this.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah. I remember reading that, like, Frankenstein, and then Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde were the two books that I read that terrified me.
Oh, yeah. Jekyll and Hyde, especially. That one is, oof. Mwah. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. I love that story to death. Mm-hmm. I also love the musical that was based on it, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
But with all this overexposure in film, of course, Frankenstein was subject to like many different forms of parody all throughout the years, and our favorite one is also possibly one of my favorite comedy films of all time.
Yeah.
I think we really should address it because it's
Frankenstein.
Young Frankenstein.
Played by Mel Brooks with Gene Wilder as Dr. Frederick
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
That's
but
Frankenstein.
It's Frankenstein. You want to hear something funny?
Yes.
Okay, so when I was assistant directing The Elephant Man, the number of Young Frankenstein references that came up was just hilarious because like as you know, the doctor, his name is Frederick Treves,
right,
and he's put in charge of taking care of John Merrick, who is this man who has a strange disease that has made him really malformed and stuff.
Yep.
So like,
check out our Elephant Man episode if you guys want more details about that entire.
It was just the funniest thing because they're like, there's like there's this moment where he's like, where this lady is talking to him and she's like, it's Frederick, is it? And he says, "Oh no," or something like, "Oh no," he says, "Oh, call me Frederick." And she's like, "Oh, Freddie." He's like, "No," and then at that point, I would always in my brain say, "No, it's Frodrick."
Igor Frodrick.
Igor Frodrick.
I will say,
pronounced Frodrick.
This literally is one of my most quoted films. I would say, Young Frankenstein is possibly my most quoted film out of Mel Brooks' entire catalog.
Yep.
It's so good.
And now, the creature.
Literally, it's a spoof on Frankenstein, but it doesn't lose the soul, the gothic soul of what makes the creature so iconic.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'll bring up the cast list because the creature itself, played by, oh my god, I forget the actor's name.
Oh wait, Boyle. Something.
Yeah, Peter Boyle.
Peter Boyle. There we go.
Peter Boyle as the monster.
I was gonna say Charles Boyle. I was like, that's the detective from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Charles Boyle. Peter Boyle. Yeah.
It's such a dang great cast. Yeah. I love this cast so freaking much. And literally, so Gene Wilder plays basically the, the grandson of Victor Frankenstein, Frederick Frankenstein, or Frankenstein.
Frankenstein, as he likes to be called.
So he's basically called to Transylvania to, in accordance with his grandfather's will or something like that, and basically finds his grandfather's notes on bringing back the dead of the experiment.
Yep, it's called How I Did It.
How I Did It by Victor Frankenstein.
Yes.
And God, Gene Wilder's wild eyes in black and white.
I love it.
As that moment's I am in love.
Yep.
And so it plays through the entirety of the original Frankenstein story, basically grave robbing for suitable body parts in order to bring back the dead in a more comedic sort of way, because gotta use Marty Feldman to that comedic effect.
Yep.
Utter legend. And basically what should have been a surefire thing, because the brain that they were going to use was the recently deceased brain, the brain of the recently deceased smartest man.
Yep.
Instead,
Hans Delbruck. But instead,
they got an abnormal
brain.
You mean to tell me that I put an abnormal brain inside of a 7.5 tall, 270-pound and 8 inches wide gorilla? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Quick, get him the... Yes? 3 syllables?
Give him a sedative.
Wait, is that sedative? Said dirty word! He said a dirty word!
Oh, man.
Can you tell I just love quoting shit?
Oh, gosh, yes.
So, it's a spoof, but it plays on, everything that is associated with Frankenstein, and it's done in a faithful way that also keeps, the gothic tone and spirit. Again, it's all shot in black and white, just like the original Universal films. You were literally humming the theme to it earlier on the violin, which I have to say... Très bien.
Nice.
Très bien.
I've just been spending this whole time trying to think of what we would say during the Elephant Man. I'm trying to think, but I don't remember. I'm pretty sure we used "walk this way" all the time.
Yes.
He's limping along with his cane.
Indeed.
Walk this way.
Yep.
Frodrick.
The name's Igor.
Name's Igor.
Wait.
Is it?
Well, I could do something about your hump.
What hump?
What
I'm
hump?
pretty sure that's oh, John, I'm a very gifted surgeon. I could do something about that hump.
What hump?
What hump?
So good.
Oh man, I love
And of course, one of my favorite scenes is when they find the secret entrance. Hand me that candle, will you?
Yeah.
Put the candle back. You-
Put the candle back. Take the candle and
I'll
I'll
block it with my body.
block the bookcase with
my
my
body.
body.
I want you to listen to me very carefully. Don't put the candle back. Instead, with all your might, push on the other side of the bookcase. Just talking all scrunched up, I love it.
Oh man, there's so many like homages to the old Frankenstein movies as well.
Like I said, the scene with the little girl at the
Yeah.
well, done in a more comedic way.
The little girl in the well, the mob with the pitchforks and stuff, the
Oh, the blind man.
the blind man, yeah.
Oh, the blind
Played
man.
by Gene Hackman, is that right?
I believe so, yes. That is what... I think that's probably like maybe like
Oh gosh.
the most underappreciated scene in that entire film.
Great, I love it. 'Cause yeah, because he in the older
Yep,
one,
Gene Hackman. It was Gene
he
Hackman.
met an old priest who lived out in the woods or whatever, and like, oh yes, I'm an old blind man, and you've sent me a friend, a mute.
It was so funny. It was just
Yeah,
perfect.
I love it. I was gonna make espresso.
I forgot that line.
Yeah.
A blind man that can make espresso. Now, okay, I'm not gonna lie. As a barista myself, I want to see how that works.
Yeah. Do you need your eyes?
I mean, to gauge a shot, yeah, but if you know, like, the flow rate of, like, how your espresso extraction works, I guess not.
Yeah.
It can sometimes turn into a sixth sense.
You can kind of just guess. I know that I often guesstimate when it comes to many things.
I mean, basically, it's more... like, cooking or, like, making anything is, like, more of a suggestion than exact science sometimes.
Yeah.
That's just how I view it.
So, what do you think it is about this story, this book by Mary Shelley, why do you think it impacts people so much? Like, what made it such a big deal?
That is a very, very good idea. I mean, obviously it wasn't because of, like, the show number that the monster was able to do.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic.
If you don't know where to go to, why don't you go to where fashion sits? I'm sorry, I had to. I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh. I think that was another Elephant Man one when they're standing up at the beginning and he's giving his, like, medical lecture about the Elephant Man.
Beautiful.
Like, yes, like the spine, he could only walk he could only walk with a limp. And now, John Merrick will perform. Put it on the Ritz.
You did that in a rehearsal, didn't you?
Probably, yes.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
It's like, I'm sorry, I can't understand what you're saying. He said put it on the Ritz.
So, let's see.
I mean, the modern Prometheus kind of gives us a clue. This is like about okay, so my mom once told me, I don't know where she learned this, that a good horror movie is basically a person has a fear, or they have a tragic flaw that then comes to sometimes literally bite them in the ass. And the flaw here was basically a man trying to be God, basically.
Yeah.
Trying to create life. Like in the place of God, trying to give life to dead matter, you know, and like just the hubris involved there, you know. You say, yes, we will, like transcending our own humanity. Like when we try to do that, we end up falling. And then also just the the idea about the monster, like, he's terrified of his own creation. Like, there's this whole thing where
Yep.
the creature comes to life, and like, Victor immediately flees the place. And there's sort of I think I remember a scene in the book when he meets the monster, and the monster has learned language and everything, and the monster tells him his story, and he says, yes, well, the first moments of my life, I basically had the mind of a newborn baby, and then you left me. It's just kind of like you think of him as this big, like, savage monster, but really it was basically just like a little child, like if you left a child alone in a room.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the original novels actually also narrates from, like, the creature's own point of view too, right?
Yes. Well, yeah, what happens is it's like a story within a story within a story or something, because it starts from the perspective of, like, this ship's captain out on the Arctic or whatever, who picks up Victor out of the ice. And then Victor tells his story, and in the story, the creature tells him a story.
Yeah, it's almost like how Dracula is structured by how the story is structured by basically, like, journal entries and letters and stuff.
Yes, and it's like people's it's people's stories. But yeah, it's like it's a trope that was used a lot back then, where it says, yes, and I was sailing in the Arctic, and I met a man, and he told me this story.
I mean, it allows for more, like, clever, like, wordplay delivery. So I mean,
I guess so, yeah.
It makes it more engaging for reading and stuff like that. I mean, it's better than reading, like, old English stuff like Beowulf. I can't get through a single reading of Beowulf. No, I can't.
I read it in prose once. It was awesome.
In prose, it's one thing, but it's like, it's so hard to get my attention. I need spacing. I need like punctuations and stuff like that. Otherwise, I lose my way too easily. Way too easily. It's one of the fatal flaws of me being blind.
Your fatal flaw.
Indeed, very much so.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly.
But have any big, tall, mute people ever come to your door and you've made them espresso? Has that ever happened to you?
No, not that I can recall.
You're like, there was this one time.
I was thinking about possibly saying that, but I think the long drawn-out pause was better. But yeah, you asked, what is it that intrigues it? Again, it comes back to both Victor and the creature as well. Like, Victor, like, the entire characterization of, like, that follows Victor is that basically the pursuit of knowledge. It's a basic thing, but, like, it's something that all of us, like, in whichever path that we follow through in life, wants to explore more of, like the pursuit of, like, different knowledge in, like, each of our different fields. Like, what else can we gain from it? There must be something more.
Yeah, and I think H.P. Lovecraft did this a lot too, where it was sort of like a human being biting off more than they can chew when it comes to science and the natural world and everything, where they try and make these discoveries, look into the unknown. Like, when you peer into the void looks back at you, you know.
Indeed.
And sort of like, there's a movie that I think I've told you about before. It's called Life.
You did mention that, yeah.
Okay, where they go and they find a microbe on Mars. They're like, oh my gosh, we found life, and we can harness it, you know, and stuff, and we'll study it, and we'll learn so much, and it'll be brilliant. And the hubris of that, because the microbe evolves into this big tentacly monster thing that eats them all. Right. And kind of like, and Alien is kind of like that as well. Right. Where but yeah, a lot of, like, space exploration where being in space is so sublime. But when you decide that, when you see something amazing and beautiful and sublime and beyond your comprehension. It's humanity's impulse to just try and seize upon that and take control of it immediately and like have power over it, rather than just experiencing it, you know.
I believe it was the great Tim Curry that once said, "I'm off to escape to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!"
Yep. But yeah, just mankind not knowing their place, mankind trying to be God, you know, or that's kind of, I think, where this story is coming from. And we can all kind of, I guess, what is the word?
Relate?
We can all kind of, relate. We can all kind of relate to that, and I think that's why it scares us, because we all know what it's like to want absolute power and control.
And to create something that is basically beyond your control, that inevitably is your downfall.
Yeah.
But you made it, so you are the one that is responsible. Yeah. And a lot of that reasoning also comes from like personal experiences that happen. Like in the novel, basically, even before the events took place, before he went to university, he had been fascinated by the work of like alchemy,
right?
Like alchemist stuff like that, and was studying that before he went to university, where he found a method of imparting life into non-organic matter. He lost his mother to scarlet fever.
Right.
I was rereading all the...
Yeah, and something like that, it often comes from... It's a flaw that comes from sort of a woundedness, I suppose, and a...
Gesundheit.
And a fear. Like, I'm sure that character, Victor, like, he lost his mother. He couldn't have prevented it. He spends the rest of his life basically trying to make sure that he won't lose anybody again, because if they die, I can just bring them back. It's within my power. You know? That is... So yeah, it's a analysis of just flawed human nature, how our fear and our pride get the better of us, and then it gets kind of turned against us, the products of that.
Right. And then on top of that, the creature basically kind of subverts like the traditional like monster kind of thing, where it's the big bad, and we come to learn he gains intelligence and articulation and speech.
Yeah. As
he relates his tale to Victor of how, as he was wandering the woods, and all these people were just frightened of him and just were offset by his appearance. Again, basically like basic human instinct: sees something scary, back up, back up, back up.
Yeah, just like the revulsion that you feel when you see something that's like unsightly. But there's also, like, why is it revulsion that gets us first and not pity?
Basically societal subliminal expectations, I would say. Like, society is subliminally just programmed to be offset by, like, the usual things of, like,
Well, because it used to be sort of like people who were disfigured were, like, had infectious diseases and stuff. So that disgust is more like, it's not so much, it's kind of like fear for oneself.
Yeah.
Almost.
Hunchback of Notre Dame actually plays into that as well with Quasimodo.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and as the creature like relates his tale, he basically begs Victor to make him a mate, aka the bride.
Right. Yeah.
Because as
it is not good that man should be alone.
He, as a living creature himself, the creature thinks that he deserves a right to happiness. And
yeah,
all of us feel that way too. Like, we go to great distances to seek some form of just happiness and just overall just peace. Another folly of us.
Yep.
To say.
Seeking peace is folly. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. or maybe even just like seeking to perfect our state in life, I guess. Because by our very nature, life can't be perfect for us because we're not perfect people.
Right. So
but this has gotten very existential, I must say.
Well, it's a very existential kind of book, like
absolutely.
when you really deep dive into the story of Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
And props to Mary Shelley for writing this. Oh god, if I remember correctly, I think it was a experience that she had at it was a certain villa that hold on. I remember reading about this exact story.
Oh,
it was
it was like a trip that she and some friends were taking, and there was a storm.
Yeah, there was a storm that basically influenced like the feel and tone of like the entire novel. I'm trying to. Oh god, what was the name of the place? Okay, here's the thing. I've been rewatching Doctor Who lately. I'm on the current Doctor Jodie Whittaker's thing. They literally had an episode with this.
Oh.
With Mary Shelley about her getting the original inspiration. Okay, let's see. Frankenstein.
It was like, to amuse themselves, they had a writing, like a story contest or something.
Yes. Oh, I'm trying to find it, guys. Insert several minutes later here.
A few minutes later.
Okay, alright, I found it. Okay. Villa Diodati, near Lake Geneva in Switzerland. Notable because Lord Byron rented it and stayed there with John Polidori in the summer of 1816. Mary Shelley and Percy Vichy Shelley, who had rented a house nearby, were frequent visitors. Because of poor weather in June 1816, the group famously spent 3 days together inside the house creating stories to tell each other, two of which were developed into landmark works of the gothic horror genre. Frankenstein by Mary Shelley and The Vampire, the first modern vampire story by Polidori.
Wow.
So, basically, it was that 3 days in June of 1816 at Villa Diodati that brought about Frankenstein at the age of 18 for Mary Shelley. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done, young madam!
That's mine.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Wrong cup. My bad.
Oh, excuse me. That's mine.
And, yeah, basically, it's amazing, like, what atmosphere can do to create and influence a creative mind to create a story like that with so much, tension, atmosphere, thematic, dilemmas, and, oh, I love it.
Yeah. I did one time, basically, I've been writing the same story for a couple of years, and there's this sort of hellish landscape where it's freezing cold all the time.
Yep, that's Wisconsin.
Yep, and a hellish frozen wasteland. And I wrote that when the heat went out in my apartment one time. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so cold.
Oh no.
This is what hell would be like.
Fair.
So yeah, your atmosphere can impact your writing.
And that atmosphere and that night at Villa Diodati basically gave rise to possibly one of the greatest gothic horror stories of all time.
Oh, for sure.
Of all time, like undisputed. I mean, just in the 20th century alone, how many times it's been recreated, reshot, reframed in both seriousness or comic effect, but still maintaining the spirit of the original source material. Mostly. Like, even in cartoons, it was still, like, maintained to a good extent. But still with the same, like, iconic image of this pale, basically rotting creature.
Yeah.
Larger than any man could hope to be. And still speaks with the tone of intelligence and eventually very fluent in speech. I mean, it took a really weird brain transplant in young Frankenstein to get that to happen. But then we got an eloquent sounding Peter Boyle, which is always fantastic. So, yeah. I gotta say, job well done. Job well done.
Yep. And it has followed us through the generations.
Through the generations, indeed.
This horror. Yes. People are fascinated by horror and by fear
and with the and by what Unga said in Young Frankenstein, he would have to have an enormous Schleimoglobin. Schwanstocker, thank you.
What's a Schleimoglobin?
I always mix it up. I'm sorry.
What's a Never mind.
I don't know German that well. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go into my corner now. It's gonna be very popular.
Können Sie Deutsch? Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
I do not sprechen Sie Deutsch. Nein.
Nicht Deutsch sprechen?
Nein.
That was terrible German that I was speaking there as well. But
better than mine.
You get the gist.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to disappoint.
It's okay. I disappoint myself every day.
I'll retreat to my corner again. But yeah, and I think the reason why like Frankenstein remains so popular, like, I mean, outside of that awesome song, I mean, let's be honest, like, is it better when they hum it, or is it better when they do it on the violin? Hannah? You good?
Yeah.
You were hypnotized by the song again, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Either way, it's good.
It really is. It really freaking is. But, what do you think it is that, for younger people, like children especially, like, what is it that gets them excited about Frankenstein? Is it just, like, big monster, cool, or what is it about that fascination? That's the one thing I'm trying to, like, figure out.
Well, I mean, kids are creepy little sickos.
I mean, true, but what is it about the imagination of a child that basically turns on whenever they see something like Frankenstein?
Well, to a child, everything is bigger, and everything is more extreme, I guess, because they have nothing to compare it to.
Right.
So, it's like the child's imagination is just a very fertile imagination, and they're very susceptible as well, like suggestible.
Right. So, outside of like the general like Frankenstein public domain stuff, where it's more cutesy and watered down compared to like the original source material. Mm-hmm. Like either the novel or like the original like Universal films from like the 1930s. At what age do you think like a human should be exposed to that? Like growing
as soon
up.
as possible. Probably I would say high school. I think that's when I read it.
Okay, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I would say high school.
That does seem like the appropriate time where like they start to like the critical thinking wheels start to move around a little bit more in the brain.
Yep. And it's sort of where you can have intelligent thoughts about it, and like you can still be freaked out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, when you can be freaked out by the simple writing of words on a page.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just letting your imagination run wild from it.
Yeah.
I call that a win.
Yeah.
I call that an absolute win. We got your endgame memes. I view this as an absolute win. Thank you, Mark Ruffalo.
Oh man.
I really got nothing to conclude for that.
Oh, nothing to conclude. Just read books.
Indeed.
Books are fun too.
Now, how to segue into the credits with social media links in a funny yet cringy manner.
Oh goodness.
Marty Feldman, help me. I ain't got nobody, and nobody care for me. Yakata, yakata, ha!
And how did that help us segue exactly?
I don't know. It was in my head. I failed. I'm sorry you have to put up with my buffoonery, audience. And also Hannah.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry you have to put up with me.
Oh, no.
Okay, fair enough. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of General Geekery. Thank you guys so much for listening to us ramble on and on about Frankenstein and the legacy of the original novel. If you guys like what you've been listening to here on General Geekery, make sure to follow us wherever podcasts are found. We are on Spotify, Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, and if you guys don't have access to those streaming services and want to view and listen to all the episodes in order, check out our playlist on youtube.com at Anime Rev Productions, my personal YouTube channel, link of which will be in the description of this episode. You guys can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at General Geek Podcast, and on Instagram at General Geekery. You can check Hannah out on social media, specifically Instagram at Pythian Legume, and also every Monday Slingin' Dice on Loaded Dice Adventures on Twitch at twitch.tv, Loaded Dice Adventures, links of which will be in the description below. She's also on the SPLANCHNIC podcast. Go check her out. Again, link for that will be in the description of this episode. Can't wait. Oh wait, I'm talking about Loaded Dice again. Donald, focus, buddy.
Yep.
Also, you guys can follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram at RyuzakiMK7, and also on Twitch at RyuzakiMK7 as well, links of which, again, in the description of this episode. You want to support the show and can continue letting us do what we do possible? You can pledge to our Patreon at patreon.com/General Geekery. Again, link in the description of the episode. And if you guys want to interact with me and Hannah and talk about more geek stuff and everything in between, come join us on our Discord server, the link of which is in the description of this episode. We have a majority of different topics to talk about. We are slowly but surely growing our community, and we would love you guys to be a part of it. Stop on by the General Geekery Guild Discord server and come and hang with us.
Oh, yes.
So, thank you guys so much for listening in. This has been episode 95 of General Geekery. Spooktober 2021, all about Frankenstein's monster. We are 5 episodes away from reaching 100.
Oh, it's gonna be so special. Whatever it is, it's gonna be great.
We gotta figure. We have to sit down and figure it out, but we will get there. Dang it!
Yeah.
Until next time, guys. For Hannah Kubiak, I'm Donald Kuczynski, and until next time, read books, be entertained, watch Young Frankenstein if you haven't done so already. And always remember to keep your geek on.
Always. Clink,
Clink, clink. Bye, guys.
Life, do you hear me? Give my creation life! There you go.
Perfect.